Good evening, everybody, and a very warm welcome to One Hub Racing Season 24, round number 4, as we head to the circuit Zandvoort for the Dutch Grand Prix. And it's very, very exciting. We've got some changeable conditions in the race today, and we've seen in the other tiers how crazy it can get. I wonder how it's going to get in at the P1 tier, the top tier on One Hub Racing. My name is Jess Ball, and joining me once again in the commentary box, we have got Max Ring. Max, how you doing?
I'm very good, Jess. Happy to be here for another race here, and yeah, it should be an exciting one.
Yes, we saw quite a bit of drama, if I do say so myself, from the P1 tier last week, but it was an entertaining race, so we'll go through the results for you in just a moment. We're seeing Aiden, who finished second last week. He took the win on 63 points, but look at this. ERT Samba closing in by 10 points to Aiden after a fantastic win last week. 3 wins in a row. Can he capitalise on that by doing something that he has done in the past, going from last to first, because he's taken his engine penalty. Bryn in third with 41 points, joint with Ben. Ben, pretty much strategy did not go his way last week, but can he capitalise on it this week? Link's in fifth. J. Cole in sixth on 27. Colin in seventh. Owen Wyatt in 8th, Larkin in 9th, Chalkers in 10th. We got Casper, Nick, Matta, Lakitu, Nate Clark, Extreme, Senna, Jensen, who had a decent showing last week, and Oshin and Daystar. Oshin still, unfortunately, can't make it. Constructors' standings are as follows. We've got AlphaTauri that are still leading, quite a comfortable margin between themselves and Ferrari in second. We got Williams in third on 50, Alpine fourth on 48, Alfa Romeo, no, I'm not calling them Alfa Romeo anymore, Sauber F1 team in fifth, Mercedes in sixth, Haas in seventh, McLaren in eighth, Aston Martin ninth, and Red Bull only with 5 points, and that was only in the sprint race. So we got quite a close championship, and Samba is still hot on Aiden's heels at the moment, Max.
Yeah, he certainly is, and that's something to look out for, of course, here this evening with Samba taking 2 of the last 2 races. So he's won every race that he's finished so far this season. Of course, we've only had 3 races, but still, that is a good stat to have to then maintain that momentum into a circuit like the Netherlands, where it is very much qualifying based, but we do have that changeable conditions, which can throw somewhat of a curveball into the driver's way. But it's all going to be about what Aiden can do in this one, and also how Samba can capitalise on maybe trying to use that momentum he's gained from the past 2 races to then propel himself into another podium, or maybe even a 3rd race win on the bounce. So we can only wait and see, but we should be in for a very exciting race, and with changeable conditions, it's going to be all really down to switching onto the right tyre at the exact right time.
And I know with the P2 tier, they're getting the worst out of the conditions. We got off very lightly, but with the P2 tier, it's meant to be storm conditions at the end. I can't wait to see how that goes up. So it's meant to start off dry in the race, then it's going to light rain and then heavy rain, with the weather set to approximate. So it could be utter chaos, but it could be like we saw in the P3 tier, where it was absolutely decent in terms of action. Zandvoort first opened 1948, part of the wave of post-war motorsport enthusiasm that swept across Europe. First Formula One race was back in 1952. Alberto Ascari dominating that race as he led home a 1-2-3 for Ferrari. And it went to race on and off the track until 1985. And then in around about 2019, an announcement came that the championship will return to Zandvoort since 2021, and it's come here ever since. So that's a little bit of information about the track. Drivers taking their engine penalties. It seems to me P1 have been the only one to take an engine penalties. Of course, we had Nick last week. He's done his. But we got 4 more drivers taking those this week, and 4 of them are championship contenders. We got ERT Samba, Chalkers, Aiden and Bryn. They got to do an outlap and then come back into the pits, and then they can retire. So for the heavy hitters taking their engine penalty, obviously Aiden's joining in midway through the session because he's taken part in an event, but 4 drivers who we expect to be near the front is going to be starting in the back, which gives some people, maybe like Ben Mills, like Lakitu and stuff like that, a chance to make their way into pole position and then climb their way up through the grid.
Yeah, it certainly is, and also a circuit like this as well, it's very difficult to make your way up the order, but these drivers, of course, now know that they do have those mixed conditions as well. That makes it somewhat easier because the undercut and the overcut could be very powerful in this race. So for those drivers that have taken their engine penalties and won't be taking part in qualifying, we as you say, we can now see maybe a surprise race winner, a surprise pole position from this, and it can allow drivers to capitalise, and that's what makes this aspect of the season so interesting, is that when your championship contenders do take their penalties, someone else gets a chance at the front and able to show off what they can do when they're leading the Grand Prix. So it's going to be interesting to see how these drivers work together and also just overall work their way through the field. But overall, it's going to be a very exciting race, and it's going to be so interesting to see how these drivers go through the field.
Good news, I think we got Taz working this week, so that's a release. We get to see some lovely data from our drivers, and we get to see about the weather, which normally we don't get to see, which is great. As Casper's the first driver to finish his lap. He's past turn 13, a slight right-hand bend that does not require too much braking. Now turn 14, which is the Ari Lion Dyke, a very fast and banked right-hander. Don't use your ERS there, please. Colin saying the first time on the board, but let's see what Casper can do. Up to the line, 1:10.3. So it's a banker lap at this point, so I'm sure he can go quicker. We have got, I think, one of the Aston Martins, it was the Sauber car who's come across the line in P2, but J. Cole, who's looking quite confident around this track. How's he going to fare around here? It's a 1:08.5. That is a decent timing from the Alpine driver. Next across the line will be Danestar, who had a bit of trouble with someone in the rivalries. It was Larkin who can't make it tonight. And no, it was Matto actually. He was asked, after your collision last time out in Miami, do you expect the same thing to happen again in the future, or was it just a one-off? And he said, originally, I won't lie, I wasn't planning on it, but after this totally efficacious and useful question, I'll be sure to not do it again. And Matt has said, what happened. Do I expect to happen again? Yes, I do. All jokes aside, honest mistake made by Lapland in Miami, and I'm sure it won't happen again. So 2, I think, understanding about what happened, but let's hope it won't happen again between those two drivers. Ben Mills, by the way, is out there on top, currently with a 1:08.5, 3-2.
Yeah, decent lap time there from Ben Mills, and seeing how the drivers think about their opinions is also something so interesting to see, about how they feel if, say, they do think another collision is going to occur, and how a rivalry is brewing. If it's a friendly one and a fair one, or if there's a bit more aggressiveness towards it. But is anyone else actually? No one's actually on a lap at the moment. It's Lakitu and Mata heading around the circuit. Mata is about to start his lap around this track. DRS open for the Williams, of course. DRS is enabled before the banking. That was a change made for 2023. Braking at just between actually the 100 and the 50 meter board there for Mata, as he now gets back on the power into the right hander, which then leads you into the first of the bankings on your flying lap. Very nicely done through there for Mata, as he now heads down through the left-right. This is all flat out focusing on your run into the long right hander. I think it's turn 8. If I'm correct, as you now head
This is turn 8.
Turn 8, that one's turn 7, sorry, the long right hand.
And that's turn 9.
Turn 9. Yeah. Turn 9 now for Mata, nicely done through there, using up all the track he possibly can. So he now heads into turn 10. DRS open once more as you now head down this back straight. And for Mata, you need to pick up your braking point nicely at the curb. Locks up the front right slightly, takes a bit too much curb as well, made the car a little bit loose mid-chicane. But for the Mata, as he now heads in to the final braking zone and into the final corner of the banking. DRS open, he'll keep it tight to the inside, maybe no, he elects to go to the outside. What's it going to be for the Williams? It's going to be good enough for P11 and the slowest of the time runner so far, so not really the greatest lap there from Mata, but on board, honestly, it didn't seem like he was pushing too aggressively.
Yeah, I think a few people are definitely on banker lap times currently. I think there's quite a lot of people that just don't want to get a feel for it yet, but don't forget, it is changeable conditions, so people may have been running compromised setups. Of course, they may have more of a of addition to their rear wing or even their front wing. But I know most people will be running 50 anyway, so it's more of a change to the rear wing. Or they might have had compromised setups on the suspension as well. So they may be a bit slower than what we would expect in the dry, and just getting a little bit of a feel for it right now, as the key to it is next across the line, and it's a 109.2. So let's have a look. Whilst everyone's on their cool down laps and out laps, a few of the pre-race interviews. So people were asked about how tricky this track was at overtaking, they're going to use any strategies tonight. Ben said weather may play a very big part in this race. No, that's a question. Sorry. We'll see how the race goes. Hopefully I could qualify well to put myself in the best position. Colin says he's thinking about some interesting strategies, and he's not had time to practice much on Sunday due to the activities that he's done. Aiden, not much downforce practice for him due to a team event that he's doing. Samba's not telling any secrets, but he has done equal wet practice and dry practice. George thinks safety cars can be a player factor on it, so he is banking for safety cars. It is possible, so we'll see what these drivers can do around it. Ben, by the way, purple in sector 1. He's looking quick on his lap right now. I wonder if it's purple in game. Yes, it is. It's looking very, very tidy from the Williams driver, and he's heading towards turn 10 now. He's looking very confident going into today's race.
Yeah, he certainly is as he now heads into turn 11. He's up by just under a tenth and a half is Ben Mills, and of course he's been so close to scoring a race victory. So today, with his rivals at the back of the field, that could be a perfect chance to do so. As he heads up to the line now for Ben Mills for his second run of this qualifying session. What's it going to be for the Williams? It's good enough to extend that lead at the top by another tenth and a half. So 1 minute 8.308. A very nice lap time there from Ben. And with the track ramping up throughout this session, maybe expect him to be into the 0.2s, maybe even the 0.1s at a push come at the end of this one. Owen Wyatt is about to come up to the line. DRS open for the McLaren. He's elected to come into the pit lane. Not happy with how that one went. Colin up in 4th place. Is anyone else near the end of their lap? No, everyone's really just going to be starting.
Nick and Casper on laps
in this session. Nick heading in to turns 5 and then into 6, which then leads you into 7. He's up by 63 milliseconds there, so it'll be enough to promote him up into 8th place at the moment as he now heads into turn 8. You want to be on the limit through here. Make sure you don't touch that outside curb, or you will be sort of dragged into it and into that gravel trap on the outside. Now into turn 10 for the Mercedes. Nicely done through there. Was able to hug a really nice tight line through there. What's it going to be in the middle sector? Up by nearly 2 tenths is the Mercedes man, and this could be good enough to maybe promote himself in the top 5 if he can find the same amount of time in this final sector. Now heading through the final corner. What's it going to be for Nick with DRS open through the banking? He's got to keep it tight to that inside. The Mercedes to the line. What would it be? It's good enough for 5th place. Just sneaks into that top 5. A 1 minute 8.786. And actually, very, very close to his teammate Colin as Casper goes up to 7th.
Yeah, Casper, good lap time from him. And look at how tight it is at the top. We have got 1st place separate with a big margin, but we've got Jaco, Lynx, Colin, Nick. They're all separated by less than a tenth of a second. Then you've got the gap to Danestar and Casper. Owen Wyatt, Jensen. I have to say, Jensen was kind of like borderline P1, P2 pace. He was looking so good in practice today. He's had more time to get used to this gear. So watch out for him, I think, going into this race. And he's done a 23.7 middle sector. What's it going to be like in the final sector? I know he's improving. It's a 1.87. That is very, very impressive from the newcomer to this tier. Mato is also on a run now as he goes through Aline Dyke for the second time of asking. He's green everywhere, so it is a sign of improvement for the Williams driver, but he can only manage 12th place. So he is struggling a little bit to get used to the car, but it is Zandvoort at the end of the day. For some people, they like it. For some drivers, they hate it. Dane Star has aborted his run. No, he's not. I thought he was going into the pits then, but he goes P2 with a 1:08.5. That is insanely quick from Dane Star, who got caught up in the incident last time out. Maybe he can come back fighting later on too. So we've got Ben on pole, Dane Star second, J. Cole in third.
Yeah, really nice lap there from Dane Star, and surprisingly J. Cole has come out into this one very late. He's sort of switched up his run plan slightly, and Nave Clark actually goes up into second place now. Only 15 thousandths separating the top two now. Thought Ben Mills' time was very, very strong and could maybe not be toppled, but Nave Clark says otherwise, and he is now up into second place and with a real strong chance of maybe snatching that pole position away from Ben Mills later on in this qualifying session. J. Cole's still heading around the circuit on his out lap. He'll be the only driver to be on a lap once he gets underway, and he'll have the track
That's early.
all to himself. Yeah, I feel like this is going to be the final run we see from J. Cole here, so it's going to be an end of the session push here for everybody else, where J. Cole will not get the full effects of the track. He needs to pull out an absolutely spectacular lap, and if he does that, he can still somewhat challenge for pole position come the end of the session. So for J. Cole, as he now heads up into turns 3 and then into 4, the banking, the long left-hander, of course, on the game. Inside line is quicker in real life. Going all the way up high on the banking is the best line as you now head through turns 5 and 6. And then, what is it in the first sector? He's up by just under 1/10 of a second. That's a very strong first sector there from the Alpine. Of course, last time he won a Grand Prix, I think, was Qatar last season. So as he now heads into turn 10, nicely done from the Alpine. Not keeping it as tight as we saw, I think it was Nick do through there as he now gets back on the power DRS Open into turn 11. He's actually lost time. He's only up by 1,000th of a second. And for J. Cole, it's going to be... It's
He's
either
down
be
in sector 2.
Now.
He's down in sector 2. That's why he's lost all the time, Max.
Yeah. He's going to have to abort here if he wants any chance to go again. Will he abort? No, he's going to stay out and go for it. What's it going to be as he gets to the line? It's going to offer third, but for J. Cole, I think he shot himself in the foot here. I don't think he'll be... he might, no,
oh, he's
that spin has just...
Right, that's his lap over. The only downside to it, I think it would have been pole if he didn't mess up in the middle sector, because he was purple in the final sector, Max, which I have to say was very good. I think he's not going to have time to go again. He's not going to have time to go again unless he cuts some miraculous corners. But yeah, that is a bit of a shame, unfortunately, for J. Cole. But it shows that he's a quick driver. And Casper's now on a run, so we'll see how quick he can go. He has been called into the driver's press conference, and he's been asked how he's been feeling about his races so far this season, and any stand-up moments so far, and who does he think his closest rival is. Casper said, took long enough to get back to Zandvoort, so I'm indeed happy. About my season, it hasn't been a good one. Of course, Australia podium was incredible, which I have to say, I got to agree with him on that. But since that, everything has gone south. Hopefully, the rest of the season goes better and he can finish on a high. Closest racer he thinks, if he has to say one, then probably Mata. We had a decent battle in Miami. Again, I have to agree with that. Casper, he's running up to the line, not setting ridiculously fast sectors. So I'm guessing he's just done one banker lap and he's going out again. But he's going to get caught up in quite a bit of traffic. So let's hope he doesn't do that. Oh, no, actually, he's going to get some clear air. But sometimes having another lap to do it, it's sometimes not the best thing because the tyres can be a bit of a killer around here. But Casper's on his next lap. Ben is on a run. We'll see what he could do. Is he about to start one? No, he's just about to finish one. He's going up to the line. He's taking the shortest run possible. Is it going to be enough for? He's improved by 1/10 of a second, 1:08.262, and he's purple in the first and second sector. He did not improve in the final sector, which suggests, Matt, there was still more time to be found.
Yeah, there certainly was, and now all the pressure shifts over to Nath Clark here. Can he perform a brilliant lap here in his Sauber. So heading into turns 5 and 6, there are other drivers coming up to the line. Nath Clark aborts. He's got time to do that. He's aborted early. He's not happy with how that first sector went. And for Nath Clark, that could be crucial for his qualifying. I think it was Nick. Nick is now heading into the penultimate corner, which then leads you into the final corner of the banking. Can he get back up into that top 5 for the Mercedes? What's it going to be as he gets to the line? Nick goes up into 4th place.
Lovely.
0.557. Of course, still many drivers to come in this session. Colin aborts and goes into the pit lane, so the best he will start is 8th place on the grid.
Jensen
And look
aborts
who's
as
made
well.
it out. Look who's made it out just in time for a final run in the session. It is the Alpine of J. Cole.
Sorry, my mic probably cut off a little bit there due to my noise removal thing, but wow, J. Cole could capitalise on this. Is he going to have enough time to get in? I know he's trying to warm up his tyres effectively. There's yellow flags everywhere. Ben is not going to have time. Come on, gang. Can you just see if we got time left, please? That will be lovely. Because it's hard to tell if we got time yet left or not. But we still got people finishing their run. So I think Jacob will be okay to start his one. He has got very, very lucky, which you could show. It shows you can go in the nick of time. But he probably must have pushed on his outlap. So it might not be the best in terms of tyre warm-up. 24 seconds. So he's going to be one of the last drivers to finish his run. Matt is about to start his lap 2, so keep an eye on those two as they start their runs. Here comes Nikita, who's finishing off his run now past Alan Nine-Dake. So we go, oh, he's aborted. He's aborted and he's going to go again. I think he's running hot lap now. Yes, he is. So here he goes to finish the line. Nate Clark, I think, I could tell, no, he's a 10th up. I think he's a 10th up in the middle sector, so I think he's trying to go on a run. But let's keep an eye on Owen Wyatt as he goes up to the line. I'll let you cover the rest of qualifying after Owen's lap. Owen up to the line now. What could he do? 6th place for the McLaren.
Yeah, Nath Clark coming up to the line. He found a huge amount of time in that first sector. He's managed to hold on to it. He's now on to provisional pole position. Jaco on his lap. He's down by half a 10th. Danestar up into 3rd place. Now he's in to the 1 minute 8.482s. What's it going to be for J. Colo? That's who everyone is watching for in this session. The last driver to be setting a lap in this session. The Alpine coming up to the line. Is it good enough to promote him into that top 3? No, he doesn't find any time at all. So for J. Cole, it's just not good enough. But for Nath Clark, he brought that lap out at the end, found the time in the first sector, and then surely that goal was just to hang on to as much time as possible. And he takes pole position for your race here in the Netherlands. And it's something that is going to be a very tricky challenge for these drivers to manage due to the threat of rain that is coming in this race.
Yes, indeed. Nate Clark on pole position for today's Dutch Grand Prix with a 108.2. I'm excited for this one. I've looked on Taz and I've seen what the weather's going to be. I'm not going to tell any of you in the chat. I want you to be surprised about this. It is going to be interesting indeed as to when it's going to come. It has been different pretty much in terms of when the full wets came in every lobby. So we will see what happens here. So it's Nate Clark on pole by 14 hundredths. Ben Mills in 2nd. Dane Starr 3rd. J. Cole 4th. Nick 5th. Owen Wyatt 6th. And we've got Links, Jensen, Colin, Casper, Lakita and Matta. Those are your qualifiers, and the whole field separated by 1.1 seconds. That's insane. And then the 1 second air engine penalties are at the back. Bryn, George, Aiden, and Samba. Only 16 drivers today, but that doesn't mean we're not going to get some action. We are definitely going to get some action.
Yeah, we're surely going to get some spectacular racing here today, and of course, with that rain and the rain that's coming and everything, it's going to just add a whole another level to these drivers. They have to be so precise with everything they do, not only in the dry but in the wet as well. And it can also play a factor on what strategy these drivers go for. Do they try go long and wait it out until the rain, or maybe make one pit stop first to maybe get that out the way And then when you switch over to the intermediates, you can go all the way till the end of the Grand Prix, depending on when it comes. So many factors here this evening to this two-stop strategy. It seems that a lot of the drivers are electing for the medium compound tyre. So somewhat assuming that means that the rain is coming, I would say around about lap 12, maybe a bit earlier.
That was
than
what
that.
it was in P2 and P3 tier. So that was that was when the rain was going to come. But it's set to approximate, so it could go either way. Final plug for our sponsors before we get into the racing. Shout out to Next Level Racing, who sponsored the league by providing some prizes each season. There's going to be an announcement very soon, if there isn't already, about the prizes that we got on offer from Next Level Racing. So keep informed on that. Pure Sim Gear sponsors the league by providing one item for free from their store to the person who has the most combined poles and fastest laps. Aztec Sim Sports sponsors the league by providing merch to the winner of 100 Racing Driver Rankings. And to our partners, Vespertine. Partner with Vespertine, who support our official apparel. Elite Racing Team, ERT Esports. Partner the ERT Go and Gets Tough Award and League trophies. The winner of the Go and Gets Tough Award gets some ERT merch. And finally, powered by StingGrid, and they run our seasons through their community and platform. We managed to get through our sponsors before they started the race. It's like they're listening to the stream or something. But thank you to all our sponsors. We couldn't get it done without you. Max, who you think is going to win today? Can any of the engine penalty people win for the back? Or could any guys from the front take it?
Oh, it'll be difficult for the drivers that took their engine penalties to try and win from the back here. But one's take this. I have a feeling it might actually be Nath. It's going to be between Nath and Ben, I feel like. But I'm going to go for Nath. He showed really good pace in that qualifying. And if he's able to convert that into the race, he has a really, really strong chance of taking the race victory here. But we're about to get underway here, Jess, so take us away.
Here we go. The 5 red lights are on for the 4th round of the P1 tier here at Danville, and it is go, go, go. Nathan Clark has a really good start from Ben Mills, but Dane Star to the outside of turn number 1. Tries to squeeze through. Matter backs off a little bit. Oh, there's a huge pile-up, and a lot of people have been caught up in it. Aiden has had a bit of a moment, and that is a bit of a shame there. Jensen, I think, had an off as well, but Ben trying to get back up the inside in towards turn 5, 6, and 7, and he does, so he's back up into P2. Dane Star dropping down to 3rd, Jacob up to 4th, Owen White up to 5th, Nick's lost a place to Owen, but we got a VSC deployed, but a few, I think, people have lost their front wings, unfortunately. Let me check Taz to see the update on that. Lynx has got full front wing damage. Colin has got a bit of front wing damage as well. Same with the likes of Bryn, which is only minor, like 10%, and Jensen. Everyone else is fine. I think there was a few drivers that got away with it, like Ada, for example. But yeah, VSC already, and we haven't even finished lap 1. But unfortunate for the ones who've got front wing damage, and the biggest loser, I have to say, was unfortunately Lynx, who's got a red front wing.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, really. That's really what happens at turn 1 here in Zandvoort, is that it just all pinches together. Such a tight corner on the exit that just one bit of contact, it could be the end of your Grand Prix. You can see all the drivers that have that damage coming into the pit lane, Jensen, Bryn and Colin. And it's quite disappointing there for Jensen after such a good qualifying session that he had. So he's on the back foot here, but this does take away one of the pit stops that he needs to do onto a set of the another set of the medium compound of tyres. The virtual safety car should be ending very shortly, so that somewhat has helped the drivers that have come into the pit lane, is that they were under virtual safety car, so they haven't lost as much time as they would. But again, we should be underway very, very soon. And there we go. We switch back to Green Flag Racing and Rigo Racing once more here in the P1 tier around Zandvoort. Lap 2 of 36. Nath Clark still leading the way from Ben Mills. And the only driver to be on that soft compounder tyre is Casper. So he's going for a risk here. Will that one pay off, as we see George and Samba going side by side in the background through turn 10. They're up into 9th and 10th after their grid penalties. And for Nathan Samba, he's up into 9th place and looking to try convert this race into a 3rd race win on the bounce.
He's looking like it, isn't it? I think those were the two that benefited from those people around him that had a bit more contact than everyone else. Same with Aiden as well, as they switch fast laps in the background as Jacob down the inside in towards turn number 1 gets past Dane, starting up into 3rd place. So his race pace is doing him good so far. Samba now gets past another car, but Lakita is not going to make it look easy through turn number 3, and Samba is up into 8th already. Had a bit of a squirm on X as they head towards 4 and 5, but Samba is looking like he's the favourite right now, but he's got to get past some other cars. He's done his last lap was a 117.5, which is pretty much matching what Ben Mills did in second place. So it's going to be very, very interesting as Ben takes the lead. Ben takes the lead of the Dutch Grand Prix, and that was a really fantastic move down the inside of Nate Clark, and he pretty much bottled the strategy last week. He got front wing damage. The game forgot to repair his damage. He's come with a resurgence, I would say. I would read his interview, I think, later on. And he wants to get this one. He's been looking good in practice as well. I was practicing with him earlier. And, yeah, it's going to be tough for people to beat him at the moment. Sambo, I think, is up in his level right now. And I think it's not much separated between Ben and Samba currently. It's Danestar around the outside of Owen White. But Owen White tries to get the switchback through turn 2, which he doesn't do. So Danestar is up to 4th, and now he's chasing down J. Cole for 3rd.
Yeah, nicely done there from Danestar and also Ben Mills to get that race lead. And yeah, as you're saying, it's going to be very difficult to beat here today, is Ben Mills. But Nathan is really the only driver to be somewhat on the same level that is in this train of the top 11 cars. Matt is having a poor race. He's already 2.6 seconds off the train. It just doesn't seem he's able to hook up this circuit like everybody else. But look at the gap Ben Mills has already. It's already half a second. But with that DRS, it's down this back straight in the main straight. It's just going to keep Nath Clark with him and maybe allow Nath Clark to make some overtakes on him. Casper under a bit of pressure here from Nathan Samba as well in the Ferrari. Of course, both Ferrari-powered vehicles. So it won't be anything different on the power front, even though we're on equal cars. DRS will be open for the pair of them. Is Nave Clark going to get close enough for a move? No, he's not. J. Cole just flickering in and out of that 1 second margin. But here comes Casper to the inside of Nick. Nick goes wide. That's allowing Casper a move down the inside, but the superior grip on the outside and the drive he can get out the corner allows Nick to stay ahead. Aiden versus the Keto, a bit of contact there as the Keto finally gets overtaken by Aiden there, who's now 1.2 behind ERT George. But for Casper, he's all over the back of Nick now into turn 7. Just can't find a way through at the moment, can the Haas? And he needs to get through quickly because there is a hard-charging Ferrari of Nathan Samba behind who will look at any given opportunity to make the move as we now head into turn 10. It'll be DRS open once more for Casper as we head into turn 11. Will he be able to get that move done on the brakes into the chicane? I don't think so, but Casper, if he wants to keep his place, needs to get this move done at the next time of asking.
I'm looking at Casper's tyres. It's around about a few percent more worn than Nick, who is on the medium tyres. So they're roughly about a similar pace, which just goes to show only about a few tenths difference. That's it. So we're starting on the softs, the right fib for Casper, because it might be hindering him a little bit. And here comes Nathan Samba to the right-hand side of Casper. Casper tries to go and defend from the left-hand side. It now becomes the inside towards turn 2. And Samba takes the move. He's got it. He's got the job done. He says, thank you very much. That's my 7th place. And now we've got Samba and Nick. They've come into the walls before. And let's hope they've forgotten about those mistakes that they had in round 1 and are able to battle like crazy. I really hope they do, because they're two really insane drivers. Pretty much tyre wear for the top 3. It's pretty much around about the same, around the 18% mark on the front and about 50 on the rears. So pretty much the top 3 are pretty much similar pace. J. Cole's pretty much out of DRS. So the top 2 are just pulling away from everyone. And then we've got the likes of J. Cole, Dane Star and Owen on one chain. And then we've got Nick leading a train. So we've got 3 DRS trains already. And hopefully I'm starting to see the clouds. The clouds are coming down, but not as quickly as I would expect. So, oh, yellow flag. That is McLaren. That's Jensen that's off. Jensen is round. Has he got damage? Let me have a look. Nope, he's not. He's very lucky just to have a little bit of a spin there, but his tyres probably would be cooked by now.
Yeah, unfortunate there for Jensen. His race is just going from bad to worse here after being caught up in that turn 1 incident. And for the McLaren, His day's just getting worse and worse. But Ben Mills up in front with Nave Clark. These two can just now maybe use the DRS, to, as you say, to pull away from the field behind. We've got some separate trains here, 3 separate trains at the moment of cars, as Nathan Samba actually did get past Nick heading down into turn number 1. So he's now trying to hunt down Owen Wyatt in front of him, and he's looking to be able to do so. He's already within that DRS of the McLaren. So Nathan Samba has some absolutely unreal pace in that Ferrari. And even if he navigates through his train, he's 2 seconds off, I think he still might be able to catch up to the back of Ben Mills and Nave Clark. Because overall, Samba is absolutely flying out here in Zandvoort, and he's all over the back of the McLaren already. And at the start of this lap, that gap was a second. So let's see if the Ferrari can make a move down into turn 1. He's maybe going to look for it, but no, just too far back. Nave Clark gets past Ben Mills there, so the Alfa Romeo gets in front of the Williams. But for Nathan Samba, give him another lap, and I think he's past the McLaren in front.
Yeah, I think so as well. I think Samba has got this, and I know that the ERT boys might be in a party together, so surely these guys won't be fighting too much because they don't want to get into incidents maybe in at the debrief. But we've got Danestar who's going to try and force a move down the inside of Jayco in maybe towards turn 8 and 9, but maybe he's going to wait the DRS straight in the middle of turn 10 in towards turn 11 and into 12. But Danestar was looking so good on the corner. You can tell who has got a setup for the wet weather, haven't they? And who has got it mainly for the dry. It'll be interesting to see how people do in these wet conditions. Aiden, by the way, gets past George up into 9th spot. Danestar having no such luck. But let's keep an eye on Samba in the background. Samba is chasing down these two. If Owen or Danestar don't get a move on, Samba could get past all of them. And Samba's not that far from the leading train, ladies and gentlemen. So it could take one strategy change for Samba to be back in this, as we've got Danestar that's got past Jayco and Ben Mills that's got past Nate Clark. Casper's got past Nick. There's positions going left, right, everywhere around Zandvoort at the moment. They're just making headway right now. Casper is dropping away from everybody else on those soft tyres, but he's able to get past Nick again. So it's having a second lease of life for the ERT man. But Ben's in the lead right now, but for how much longer? These two have got to work together. If they don't work together, Samba is going to be catching up like no tomorrow.
Yeah, he certainly is. He's going to be catching at a rate of knots. And look at Owen Wyatt all over the back of J. Cole. J. Cole has maybe lost a bit of pace in this Grand Prix over the last few laps, and he's really started to struggle slightly compared to the cars around him. So he does have the McLaren of Owen Wyatt in front of him first. But for Nathan Samba, he's just really been just chugging along in this race. He's been really pushing the car, as there goes Aiden to the inside of Nick, heading into the chicane. He's got the move done on the Mercedes. Next up is the soft tyre runner of Casper, and for Aiden, he needs to try stick with Nathan here. Of course, 2 championship rivals, and for Nathan Samba, he can be scoring some big points here today if he is able to outscore the AlphaTauri of Aiden. But here we go, into turn 1 this time around. No moves being made by anybody. It seems that we have a lap where the moves are made. Then we have that lap where no one really goes for anything. And then once again, it's every other lap where those moves are being made. So at the moment, Ben Mills still leads out in front from Nave Clark. Danestar in 3rd. J. Cole in 4th. And then Owen Wyatt rounding out that top 5, but under immense pressure from Nathan Samba behind.
Yes, this is going to be interesting, but it could all change when the rain comes. It is starting to come down thick and fast. You can see a little bit of dark clouds, but it's not nemesing right now. But you never know, when it rains, it pours on this game, and they just got to think on their feet, really, on which is the best tyre, as we're on lap 10 of 36 right now. And I think the ones who have got a lower wings compared to everybody else could start to struggle, and the ones who are on higher wings, they can have a new lease of life. Wish I had the same for that in the P3 tier earlier on. But we could see another change for the lead then, as Nate Clark is going to get the DRS. I think they're just going to work together at this point. Danestar versus Jayco on the run to the line. We got our first pit stop. Casper has been forced to pit right now. That is going to be interesting for him, as we've got George that is in on the mediums then. So we think there's not going to be inters just yet. That is intriguing, not gonna lie. So we've got Nathan Samba that's got past Owen quite comfortably around the outside, up into 5th spot, and he's now 1 car away from Danestar and J. Cole. So bring it on, Samba. Already he's on for a podium. It did help that there's only been 16 drivers, but still, Samba does have the edge of everyone else. I think the last lap he has done, let me check, has 113.1 compared to Danestar's 113.5, J. Cole's 13.151. So the only, and Ben Mills is 113.0. Nate Clark is two tenths quicker than Ben Mills. So obviously, apart from the top 3, Nathan Samba's quicker than everybody else.
Yeah, so that's something to look out for as well. As you can see, the clouds are starting to really roll in here around Zandvoort. As you can see, it's a lot more overcast than it was at the start of the Grand Prix. But being faster is so much. You need to be faster, of course, to make the moves as Ben Mills gets ahead of Nath Clark there. But you need to be a substantial amount faster than your rivals to make the moves in this race. It's J. Cole with a big slide out of turn number 1. That nearly allowed Danestar to go for a move into turn number 2. And look at Nathan Samba trying the outside line around the banking. Can't get the move done on the Red Bull in front. As you can see, he's now putting a bunch of pressure onto Danestar, heading into turn 7. And look at J. Cole as well. He's under an immense amount of pressure from the Red Bull as well. But here comes Nathan Samba looking to the inside for turn 9. Wasn't able to sneak a front wing up the inside as he goes now to the inside through turn 10. Nearly contact made between the Ferrari and the Red Bull. And these two are getting too close for comfort, really. They just need to make sure they get to the rain in this Grand Prix. This is 2.4 between J. Cole and Nath Clark, so that's a bit over the past few laps. But for Nathan Samba, he's going to try look for the move now, you would think. DRS open, burning that battery on the Ferrari, as he's going to be catching in that slipstream more and more. They're going to get past J. Cole here, or at least are Danestar and Nathan Samba. There they go, past the Alpine, and the Red Bull lives to fight another day on this lap, as the rain, I reckon, should be here.
It is now. Rain, it's raining.
And it started raining. So the rain is here. Intermediate tyres, it's not raining heavy enough, so the intermediate tyres, give it maybe 5 or 6 laps, will be in play. And for Nathan Samba, he needs to get past Danestar and try hunt down that top 2 as quickly as possible, because once we get to that wet weather, it's going to be extremely difficult to do so.
It's pretty much the same as all the other tiers. It was around about lap 12 when it started raining, give or take. But I think there was a few tiers that went slightly a bit later, but not much later. So, do you risk it? Do you pit now? Or would you stay out an extra lap and then hoping that it's going to get not worse until you come in? It is a really tough strategy to call. Some people would take the gamble. Some people would not. But some people would have looked at their weather forecast coming into this Grand Prix and think, right, what should I do? Would I take the risk? You can tell who's done some practice around here, because they are probably preempted for this to happen. So we've got Danestar who's in. Oh, Danestar's got a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. Samba's in as well. Owen Wyatt, Aiden. They're all coming in for inters. And let's see. It is a bit slippery if we set to 1.
It is the time.
It is the time. It is getting slippy. It is getting slippy. It is inters. It is intermediate tyres. So the ones who've come in right now, they have played it perfectly. So your net race leader could be the man who's sitting in P8, because the Danestar's penalty is Samba. From last on the grid, could get P1. And look at this, they're already catching up on Casper, who pitted onto softs earlier. Look at how time flies, doesn't it? Very quick.
The rain did not look heavy enough at all to really cause this much puddles, because look at it, it's not really raining too hard. But it has come down thick and fast. Ben Mills goes wide. There's contact between him and Nath Clark. Up at the front, they've got no grip to the top 2. They're going to get undercut here.
Then floor damage.
Samba and Danestar. And DRS is now disabled. But this rain has come down absolutely torrential. It's biblical scenes here as Aiden's now getting past George. George has been in a spot above her as well. Casper off the road in front of Nathan Samba. There's contact made between the pair as well. The drivers at the front of the field, though, the likes of J. Cole, J. Cole did have the visual effects, but for the likes of Ben Mills and Nath Clark, as soon as they pass that pit lane, Nath Clark actually has a bit of front wing damage that he needs to change in this pit stop as well. But for Nath Clark and Ben Mills, they didn't have the visual cues that it's time for intermediates on their screen until they passed the pit lane. But luckily for the Williams, he is out ahead of Danestar.
Oh, but he's going to struggle, Max, because he's got 60% floor damage, whereas Danestar has got no floor damage at all, and you do not want to have floor damage around Zandvoort. So looking at Danestar in general, that's going to be good. I can almost sense the Ben versus Nate Clark incident could be investigated by the stewards. They may choose not to, but it might have just been both of them were struggling on mediums. They couldn't find much grip. It is hard, not going to lie. Bearing in mind Danestar has that penalty. So it could be provisional, these results, but you never know. It is hard to judge with our camera angles, so we have no clue whose fault it could be. Most people have done their stops already. Casper's done 2 stops. But again, we don't know when the full wet is going to come. For ERT, it didn't come to about lap 30, lap 31, when it was time for us to go into full wet, and that was a safety car that was deployed there. Casper, by the way, gets past Bryn up to 12. Bryn, unfortunately, with his engine penalty, not going well for him. He got caught up in the damage earlier on. George, the same, not doing too well. So the ones who stayed out an extra lap, apart from Ben, of course, has really hindered their race, and it is pretty much going to be damage limitation for them for the rest of this one. And this is the point now. Fuel, you don't use up too much fuel in these wet conditions. You pretty much gain, if any, for some drivers. So it's about how they manage those tyres in these conditions. For some people, they probably hardly run any tyre pressures at all. But again, it depends on the setup. So we'll see what they can do. Top 3 running away with it. Owen Wyatt struggling to catch up to these guys, but he's doing well in 4th place. Hasn't got up into too much trouble so far. So he could benefit from some people maybe getting penalties up front. So if he hangs on to this top 3, he could be on for a podium spot here.
Yeah, he certainly can. And for Owen Wyatt, that would be a big result to really boost his season. Of course, got a podium on his debut and did show some promise last season as Bryn is able to get past Casper there for 11th place. But Owen Wyatt, this season hasn't really materialised like it did in the last one. So getting a podium here could be a real big confidence booster heading into the next few rounds, and could certainly be something he needs to get his season back on track. But for Ben Mills, still leading the way up at the front, but of course not as comfortably as he would have wanted it, especially with that floor damage as well. That's going to be really affecting his grip in and out of the corners. As now, I feel like we're not really going to see too many overtakes between this top 3. It's now going to be all about the tyre saving and waiting to see if we do go to full wet compounder tyres. And also, without DRS, makes the overtaking even harder as Owen Wyatt's gone wide. That's allowed Aiden up into P4, into turn 4 as well. Owen, I think, locked that front left slot slightly, sorry. It sent him wide, and Aiden was like, thank you very much. It was like taking candy for a baby from for the AlphaTauri driver. And
I love that.
Into 4th place, hunting down the top 3.
Now, the track temperature has gone down a few laps ago from 25 degrees to 24, so it is cooling a little bit. And by the end of the race, we would expect it to drop down to 21, potentially, if we get to full wet conditions. And I think since it's now intermediate tyres, it's getting worse already. It is getting, the grit is getting so much difficult for these drivers. It's just going to be who's going to keep it on a straight line, who's going to keep on a straight line now, because in the wet conditions, Zandvoort is not the best place to overtake. For some people, I question their decision as to why they've taken their engine penalty. For Samba, I think he could have taken his engine penalty anywhere and he still finished where he is. But he probably would have got par anyway. But for some other people, they may have been caught up in unnecessary things that they shouldn't have got caught up in because they were near the back. But at least they got their engine penalty out the way. And they didn't have to take it again. But again, I thought they would have taken it somewhere like France or Cheddar or maybe even Austria, where you can overtake, and it's a sprint race. But if you're in the top 5, you can't take it anyway. So that's probably why they want to get it out the way. So we're halfway into this race. If you're liking this stream, make sure you leave us a like and a follow on Twitch. Subscribe to us on YouTube if you haven't already. Follow us on Twitter, X. Well, I call it Twitter, at OneHub Racing as well. And follow us on Discord. And also check out our sponsors, as Aiden has caught up a little bit to Danestar, but the spray is coming down thick and fast. In the meantime, Sam is going to be in a net P2 due to Dainstar's 5-second, but he will have to serve it in the pits. Of course, in the wet conditions, mandatory 2-stop is still required. So everyone has to do 1 stop. The only people that have done 2 stops are Bryn, Casper, and George. Colin and Link's also done 2 stops, as well as Jensen. We still got 16 runners in this race. Now, what would you do if you were Sam at this point? Because he's closing up quite considerably, but he's just unable to get past Dainstar at this moment in time. What's he going to do at this point, Max?
You've really just got to push on and try to get that move done, because Dainstar is losing a lot of time to Ben Mills in front. Ben is really flying at the moment on those intermediates. He's not really showing that floor damage is affecting him too much. So if you're in Nathan Samber's position, you've got to try to get that move done as quickly as possible, even if that is burning a lot of your battery, because it's so important to stick with the cars in front in these conditions where it's so difficult to find that time, and one mistake could cost you 2 to 3 tenths of a second. So he needs to just crack on, get that move done, and try catch up. But look at this, Dainstar is actually going to let Nathan Samber through, showing that the Red Bull thinks he hasn't got enough pace and might just sit behind the Ferrari. This could allow Aiden as well to help catch up to the Red Bull 2. But for Ben Mills, 2.5 seconds up in front, when he was only just over a second away about 2 laps ago, he's absolutely flying out in front and is not showing any signs of slowing down.
That is really, really intense. I think Samber is just going to absolutely push now to try and get this race win. And it's about 2.6 seconds. And the gap between, the last lap for Ben Mills was a 1:19.1, Samber's a 1:19.6. Now he's got a bit of clear air in front of him. Is that going to help him giving a new lease of life to catch up to him? Or is it said and done at this point? So we'll keep an eye on this next lap to see what he can do. The gap isn't coming down that much, so it's going to be quite close. Your pick for Ben taking the win on track is pretty much probably a good one at this point. 14 places going for Nathan Samber, 11 for Aiden, 1 for Owen Wyatt. Jacob's dropped 2. Nathan Clark has dropped 6. He's lost a lot due to his front wing damage. Lakitu and Matt are up 2. So is Bryn. George up 2 as well. And Link's down 8. The biggest loser. Yellow flag. Oh, what's happened there? What's that yellow flag for?
Jensen's retired in the pit lane.
All right, okay. Jensen has retired in the pit lane. I was looking at tabs, so I didn't see retirement there. So, yeah, unfortunately, that is his race over. He had no damage, but he feels like he was off the pace to call it a day, which is a bit of a shame. We do encourage people to finish because you score points if you finish. So, but unfortunately, Samber wasn't like that at the moment. And Jaco gets past Owen White up into turn number 1. And Jaco has probably saved a bit of battery and tyre life for this moment. I wonder if Owen was pushing a little bit too much or if Jaco just got getting more grip. We will see. Jaco is up to 5th right now.
Yeah, nicely done there from Jaco. He's really been able to crack on there in that Alpine and just try put in those consistent laps that he needs to do. Owen has been struggling slightly on these intermediates, just can't really hook the car into the corners the way he would like, and that's going to be affecting his pace overall. But you said about Nathan and how him being in fresh air could give him a new lease of life.
It's not.
Ben Mills is absolutely flying. He's extending that gap lap by lap.
How was he doing it with floor damage?
He's just, well, to be honest, it increases drag. So he's going slower into the corners, which means he can go quicker on the exits. Slow in, fast out. But it's so difficult to keep your car on a straight line in those conditions as well. So he's on the limit at this. So for Ben Mills, he's absolutely flying. And for Nathan Samber, I feel like his streak could come to an end here to the hands of the Williams driver. But we've still got a long way to go in this
Pending
one.
stewards investigations.
14 laps. And also steward investigations due to that collision with Nath Clark. But for Ben Mills, absolutely flying out in front now and doesn't seem to be slowing down at all.
Nope, he's not. I think it's going to be between Ben Mills and Samber for the win. No offence to the rest of these drivers. I don't think anyone else could catch up. But I think if it wasn't for that penalty for Dainstar, he would have been up there as well. But you can see Nathan is struggling. He did a 1:20.1 last lap compared to Ben's 19.5. He's 5 tenths quicker than Samba. He's gained a lot. So it might be that Samba has probably got a setup for the full wets, not the intermediate tyres. Or maybe he just hasn't changed his setup at all and it's not helping him a little bit. But don't count Samba out. He might have just made a mistake 1 lap or something. Or maybe this train is not helping him. There's so many questions left to be unanswered. But to be honest, he's still going to gain quite a lot in the championship because Aiden is behind him as well. So to be honest, it doesn't matter if he doesn't win because Samba's going to gain quite a bit on the championship leader. But the question is, it'll be up to Ben, really. So I think the top 3 in the championship will be quite close. If it wasn't for Ben's mistake last week, Ben would have been up there as well. He is just so quick in a straight line, it's crazy. Meanwhile, Nate Clark and Owen Wyatt side by side towards turn number 1. Easy done for Nathan Clark, but he's not making it stick. Owen Wyatt's going to try and cut back on him in towards turn number 2. And I think he's just going to have the edge on Owen Wyatt, Nate Clark. So Nate Clark is gaining back rapidly into P6 right now. Imagine where he could have been if he didn't have that contact with Ben Mills, which I don't know whose fault it was for that incident. So again, it will be up to the stewards. But if they was to decide to report it, of course, it might have just been, just a tap here and there. But we'll have to wait and see. But when's the full rain gonna come? I can see it on my tabs, but it may come a bit earlier than expected, and it's already getting very treacherous for the drivers to drive. We can tell if it's going to be full wet if we see standing water.
Yeah, that's really when you can tell, but the full wet tyres are going to be the better ones. But for Nath Clark, that was a nice move on Owen Wyatt, and unfortunate with the damage that he sustained. I feel like that will be given as a racing incident by the stewards because there's nothing really they could do. They were both having no control of their cars and into one another. But for this 6th place here at the moment for Nath Clark, it's a decent chunk of points. He can still try to catch up to the back of J. Cole. Aiden is stuck behind Danestar at the moment. These guys are just all sort of stuck in this train. But for Ben Mills, that clean air, just having that track with no one around him, it's just allowing him to do quali lap after quali lap as the Mata gets past the K2. Mata has been nowhere in this race, and he's into the top 9. These intermediates conditions, he must have been running a wet setup because in these intermediates, the Mata has come alive, and both Williams drivers are absolutely flying in this Grand Prix. Now we're on to the Inters as the K2's being overtaken by Bryn and might be George as well. There's a little bit of contact made through turn 6, but luckily for the pair of them, they're both able to soldier on as the K2 wide manages to Tokyo drift that one and save it. But for the K2, that could have been race ending. But the Williams drivers both flying in this Grand Prix, and the Mata, he might have done a masterclass here on the setup front. He's now going to be scoring some decent points for his championship.
And it'll probably be his best result of the season as well. Could be a contender for driver of the day. I know he's down in P9, but sometimes you have to compromise on setups. You may be really slow in the dry, but if you know most of the race is going to be wet, why not take the gamble and go for an intermediate setup? It's working for Mata. He is closing up on Nick just a bit, and it may work wonders for him. We'll have to wait and see as we are starting lap 25 of 36. I'm just sitting on going on board now. It is impossible to tell, but I am starting to see a bit more rain on the halo of Danestar as I was going on board with him. And the K2 is coming in. Is he going to take a gamble of all gambles? Nope, he's going on the inters. He thinks it's not going to be enough for full wet, so he is coming in on a set of the intermediate tyres. Will this come back to bite him? We'll have to wait and see. Or was his tyres so hot in terms of temperature that he had to be forced to come in? And he's going to be down in 15th spot. I'm gutted they doesn't say tyre temperature on here, because it would have been lovely if we could see tyre temperature on tabs, but unfortunately we cannot. But the one who's struggling the most on this intermediate run is Owen Wyatt. His fronts are 43%, whereas everyone's on the 27s and 32s. I don't know what has happened to his setup, but I think it must be that his tyre pressures are definitely wrong, or he might have put in more rear wing. I don't know. But yeah, Owen seems to be struggling a lot more than everybody else compared to the tyre wear. But we're seeing people do their 2 stops, including our leader, Ben Mills, and he's going on inters. He doesn't think it's going to be full wets. Oh, I literally don't know at this point. I really don't know. But again, it doesn't look very menacing at the moment, so we will have to wait and see. Will this pay off for him? Mata also goes in on the other Williams driver.
Yeah, that's an interesting strategy choice there from Ben as George versus Bryn rages on in the background. George up into 9th place now due to the matter coming into the pit lane. But obviously these drivers don't think it's going to get wet enough. Of course, they do have Jeff in their ear as well, telling them about the rain. Of course, he's not the most reliable of persons, but it still could be something to go off. But at the moment, it does seem like it is going to stay intermediates, but we saw how quickly it changed from intermediates to full wets. Sorry, not full wets. Sorry, slicks to intermediates. It could do the exact same for the intermediates to full wets. So we can only wait and see. We've got just under 10 laps to go in this Grand Prix, and it's going to be a very, very dramatic finish. Do Nathan, Samba and Aiden reply to that? Nathan does. Aiden doesn't. He stays out. But Nathan tapping the wall, Sergio Perez-esque, heading into the pit lane.
Does he have damage? No. He was very lucky that he did not get damage there.
He certainly was.
So where is Ben Mills? Ben is already ahead of Samba. By quite a way.
Well, I think he's actually extended that gap on those fresh intermediates.
That's because maybe Samba hit the wall in the pit lane.
Yeah, he has. He's gained about a second on Samba.
So I wonder if him pitting was the right choice. Because he's done his 2 stops. He doesn't have to worry about pitting again. We could be on the cusp very, very soon. I've experienced this. I think I pitted around lap 13. Around about lap 27, 28, the inters just felt awful. The tyre temps were really bad. The grip wasn't good enough. You're more prone to be making mistakes. And he's already catching up to Nath Clark as well on those intermediate tyres. I don't know how he's catching that rapidly, but I'm looking at J. Cole's tyres. 32%. Nath Clark, 38%. Oh, that is probably a strategy proved wrong for Ben Mills. I thought it wouldn't be the right strategy, but it turned out to be the good one in the end. And obviously, if there's a safety car, he could be back in. It's the top 2's in. The top 2 is in the pit lane, and they're going on to Inters 2. Or are they going to be brave enough to go onto the full wet tyres? No, they're both going on to intermediates as well. When's it going to be enough for full wets, man?
I don't know. That's even if it is going to be strong enough rain for the full wet compounded tyres. And for Ben Mills, even with making this extra pit stop, he could still somewhat come out in the lead if we do go to full wets, because he'll just have that massive gap between him and Nathan Samba, because surely Nath Clark is going to come into the pit lane very, very soon to get off those intermediate compound of tyres. But we might see a battle between George and Jaco. Of course, he's also just come into the pit lane, has the Alpine, where the Ferrari has stayed out a bit longer, a bit like Nath Clark. And the matter, he is ahead of Bryn, of course, he was also with George, wasn't he, in that battle? So
yes.
He needs to look out for that as well. He's actually caught up quite massively to Nick Race again in front. So for the matter, that undercut strategy really working and pushing on in that in this weather is really helping Matter's course. But look at this, his teammate Ben Mills all over the back of Nath Clark. It's going to be an easy move, you would think, for the Williams on those fresher intermediates. There he goes, he flies by the Alfa Romeo, who started on pole position, and his race just hasn't gone the same way as qualifying for the Sauber. But Jaco also now looking for George as well. To the outside goes the Alpine using that battery. George can't really fight this one to the inside. A little bit of contact made. But for George, he has to elect to sit behind, because there is no way he's going to be able to fight that one with a superior grip difference. And for Ben Mills, he's back up at the front. And for Jaco, it's up to P5.
Brilliant stuff from Jaco in P5 at the moment, as Bryn and Matt are going side by side, as Bryn had the edge there a little bit as well, but here comes Casper and Nick. Nick with the fresher rubber. He's going to do all he can to try to go around the outside through and towards turn number 3. And then another camber corner towards turn 4 and 5. It's going to be tight for Nick to do what he can. We also got Bryn in there as well. Matter in there too. It's just a 4-car drain for 9th spot. And it's going to be free wide potentially. Do not make it free wide, guys, because we know that 3 wide just doesn't work around that type of corner. They head towards turn 8 and 9 now. I think Nick just has to be forced to stay behind. And to be honest, Casper is doing a brilliant job in defending Nick there. So here he goes. We've got Nate Clark, who's in the pit lane. So that will leave Casper the only driver to make a pit stop. He has done his 2 stops, remember, but I don't think he's going to get to the end on those tyres. No question about it. And we got Nate Clark, who's going to drop Ray down the order, unfortunately. Samba, by the way, is catching on Ben Mills quite a bit. He's gained 2 seconds on Ben Mills. So I wondered the battle that they were having between Nate Clark and Ben Mills was hindering him a little bit, as Nick has passed Casper up into 9th spot.
Yeah, nicely done there from Nick, and I do feel like Nath was slowing down Ben Mills slightly there. As you can see, the gap is somewhat fluctuating, that 4.3 second mark. So Nathan Samba does still have a lot of pace left in that car, but with just under 6 laps to go, Ben Mills surely has this one in the bag unless something drastic happens to his pace. And for the Williams driver, he just needs to bring this one home. But Nathan Samba on these fresh intermediates is starting to gain on the Williams in front. So maybe having that 1 or 2 lap difference between the tyre compounds can really help you out here. And for Nathan Samba, he's still looking for that race win to make it 3 wins on the bounce. And of course, Aiden looking to also get a Grand Prix victory after he's won out in Australia, the opening round of the season, and 2 of the championship protagonists. Dainstar versus Owen Wyatt down into turn 1. To the inside goes the Red Bull, and he gets the move done on the McLaren, but they're still side by side heading into turn number 3. But there you go, gets pinched there, does the McLaren, and the Red Bull sails past and is up into 5th place. Dainstar, a very decent race here from the Red Bull as well. J. Cole now in a world of his own in this Grand Prix. Matter and Casper going side by side. Casper has a slide, so does Matter. And Matter is up into 10th place there, and is able to now try hunt down Nick once more, as Nath Clark going to be trying to catch up to George, who still hasn't come into the pit lane again yet. I think he's actually done his 2 stops, has the Ferrari. He's going to try and make it to the end of the Grand Prix. Yes, he has, but that's going to be a very tricky task. I think Dainstar just had a lag spike there, because he's just teleported behind Owen Wyatt in that sequence.
Yeah, that was very, very weird. That was a bit unfortunate for Dainstar there, because suddenly he was fighting with Samba and Aiden, and now he's with Owen Wyatt. So that is, I think, a bit cruel, to be honest, that the game did that to him. But, you know, Daystar's now got to fight back for him currently right now, as Samba's just catching up a little bit. So I want to be saving his tyre life a little bit, as Dainstar goes round the outside of Owen Wyatt towards turn number 1, squeezes in towards turn number 2. You do not want to go side by side through 3, because that could be very tricky at times. Nate Clark gets past George up into 7th, so he is on the comeback as well, but that could have been a podium for him as well. Let us know in the chat, by the way, who you think is going to win this one. Is it going to be Ben Mills, or is it going to be Samba? We do not have long to go until the end of this race. Could Samba make it another win on the bounce, or could we see Ben Mills take his first win of the season provisionally, to match what we saw with Aiden in race 1, Nathan Samba in race 2 and race 3, and make it 3 different winners from the last 4 feature races? It's going to be tight, but I'm looking forward to seeing who's going to come out on top. Don't forget, some people haven't taken the engine penalties yet. Ben will still have to take his, but Ben is doing a superb job despite him having floor damage due to that incident. But another driver that's doing well as well, Nick on a good comeback as well. Owen doing a decent job. J. Cole, by the way, still hanging on to 4th. And Aiden somehow becoming with his engine penalty. I have to say, Samba and Aiden are the only ones to have benefited from this engine penalty, whereas the others who've taken the engine penalty are just gone south, unfortunately.
Yeah, it really has gone a bit south here for Bryn after taking that engine penalty, and he's down in 15th place. It's just not where he wants to be at all, 11 seconds off the back. But for some of these drivers now, it's just about bringing this car home, especially if you're in J. Cole's position and maybe Aiden's as well. You just want to get to the end of this Grand Prix with just under 4 laps to go, about 3.5 laps remaining in this Grand Prix, but the battles are still all raging on, and one thing you do also need to look out for in this is maybe the drivers behind on those fresher tyres than you, to just try and push forward. So it's going to be so difficult for some of these drivers come the end of the Grand Prix, especially the likes of Dane Starr and Owen Wyatt, who are battling with Nave Clark with 3-lap fresher tyres than them. He's going to be gaining at a rate of knots on the 2 cars in front. So for Nave Clark, I think he's going to be able to finish up in 5th place, but it's a story of what could have been for him. But for Ben Mills, he's managing that gap beautifully with Nathan Samba. And for the Williams driver, heading into turn 3 now, he just needs to do this circuit 3 more times, and he would have won the Grand Prix.
Yep. But it is going to be difficult. It is going to be quite tough, because you know how the Inters just start to have a life of its own sometimes. You know that it will come to the end of its life very soon. So you just got to hang it in there. Do not make too many mistakes, and then you've won. No safety cars, by the way. Only one VSC, and that was on lap 1. So, in general, for majority of the drivers, they kept it relatively clean, which I'm very impressed with so far. Shame we've had certain drivers not show up tonight, but Colin does get past Link up into P12. I think a race what could have been for him as well. He was struggling a little bit, but there's still quite a lot of the racing, the season still to go. As Owen Wyatt gets past Nave Clark up into 6th spot, and there's a lot of spray coming out of the cars. And I think if the race gone on for like 3 or 4 more laps, we would have had enough for 4 wets. But it's just the game, unfortunately, was lying to us. We were hoping. The Taz said it was meant to be a storm coming up now, but it is never materialising. But I think if there was a safety car, there would have been a storm. But we're not getting it at the moment, because Nave Clark has got a brilliant run on the banking into Iron Lion Dake, and Owen was struggling a little bit, but he's going to get a good run in towards turn number 1. And is he going to go to the right or to the left? He's going to think about going right. Can Owen Wyatt breeze past Nate Clark? They make a bit of contact once again. As they spun round. Those two spun round. That's lost him a bit of time. And Nate Clark's race has gone from bad to worse right now, which is a bit of a shame. And he's lost a lot of time to Dane Starr to try and catch up to him, unfortunately. But on lap 35 of 36, not much is happening in terms of battles right now, unless you're Lakitu and Lynx, who's trying to catch up. But that was a shame. And Casper's got a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. And I do see a bit of front wing damage. And Casper is unfortunately making it the 2nd retirement of this Grand Prix.
Yeah, unfortunate there for Casper. Ben Mills will have 1 more tour of this racing facility to go. And it could be a well-deserved victory if you keep it on the road. Unlucky there for Nave Clark and Owen Wyatt. Owen just went a bit too hot on the brakes there. And Nave Clark was unfortunately collected there on the outside line. But here we go then. The final lap of the Grand Prix, ladies and gentlemen. And look how much Aiden's actually gained on Nathan Samba here. He's got that 1 lap fresher tyres, and he was 2.5 seconds behind. So we can maybe still see a race for 2nd place in this Grand Prix. We're just going to have to wait and see. So as we now head through turns 5 and 6, the AlphaTauri trying to get closer to the Ferrari in front. I don't think it will be enough come the end of this Grand Prix. George has done really well to stay out there on 21 lap hold intermediates and still maybe pick up 8th place here as we head into turn number 10 for the final time with Aiden and Nathan Samba now. And it will be too little too late for Aiden. Give him 1 or 2 more laps. He certainly could have made the move into maybe turn 1 or the chicane. But further up, Ben Mills heading into the final part of the lap. He just needs to navigate 1 more traction zone and the banking to see glory. So Ben Mills heading through the final corner now. His destiny has been fulfilled. He has finally won here in the P1 tier. He crosses the line to win the Dutch Grand Prix, followed by Nathan Samba and Aiden in 3rd. Ben Mills, it makes it 3 different winners from the first 4 races and stops Nathan Samba from winning 3 in a row. A brilliant drive from the Williams driver. And overall, he cannot complain about that one, because that was absolute calm and controlled up at the front.
And he had a bit of floor damage as well. He had a bit of floor damage and still went on to win the race. So imagine what could have been if he didn't have floor damage. I think he would have been even more ahead of the likes of Samba and Aiden. So fair play to him. We're just waiting for a few more drives across the line. And Mata finishes in an impressive 10th spot with Link comes across the line in 11th. Lynx gets the final points, but then you get points if you finish. That will be Lakitu and Bryn. What could have been for him? We have to pick our drivers of the day in a minute, but I have to say, Samba and Aiden doing very well with their engine penalties. Had a nice fight there, but Ben, being a new driver, of course, he was looking good in practice. He was preempting the conditions. That has helped him today. There were certain drivers that may have not practiced too much, and it is showing because they weren't sure when it was going to come. But even we couldn't have predicted. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough for 4 wets compared to the other 2 tiers, unfortunately. But we got a British driver on top, just like we saw in race 1. And Samba on the podium yet again. I do believe you'll lead the championship, Samba, but I might be wrong. Actually, no, Aiden will still lead, I think. But I'll have to do the maths. I'll have to do the maths, but yeah. I can't pick a driver of the day at the moment. It's going to be very, very close between a lot of these drivers, but should be interesting going into next week.
Yeah, it certainly should. The championship battle is getting ever closer. And yeah, I mean, it's just going to be so amazing to see. I mean, Ben Mills, what a drive. That really has put himself in contention for the championship as well. And overall, it's going to be such an amazing rest of the season. So it's something to look out for, is everybody in this race. I mean, Bryn managed to pick up a point for finishing the Grand Prix, and he could still be in the championship fight come the end of the season. That point could be so crucial for him. But yeah, a brilliant race there. And can you think your driver of the day yet, Jess?
I have thought of a driver of the day, and I'm going to have to go for the man. I don't usually go for the man who wins the race straight away. Usually if I get first dibs, I go for the one who's getting the most places. But I have to give it to Ben because he got a good qualifying position. It was P2. He was able to have a great battle with Nathan Clark for most of it. Despite him having floor damage, he still managed to get to the end of Grand Prix and he absolutely dominated it. So my question is, massive congratulations on your first win in the P1 tier. How did you cope with the wet conditions, and can you carry on this form going into the rest of the season? And do you think you can challenge the likes of Aiden and Samba for the title? I'll hand it over to you, Max. Who is your driver of the day, and what would you like to ask him?
I'm gonna give it to Nathan. And
Samba?
Samba. Oh yeah, I forgot about Nathan Clark. We have too many Nathans in this division. But yeah, I'm gonna give it to Samba. And my question for him is, coming into today, did you think it would be as easy making up those places after your engine penalty?
That is a good move. To be honest, I think I was torn between them and also Aiden as well, because he drove quite well. So yeah, it was quite tough, of course, but they all drove very, very well. So we are going to wrap it up there. We thank you for watching. Next week, we're back to normal. We have got round number 5, which is, I believe, if I get the calendar up, it will be France on the 18th of February. Will the adaptive weather system bring out more surprises, or will it be dry for the whole thing? We'll have to wait and see. We won't know until we go racing next week. Max, what are your thoughts about France?
It's a circuit a bit different to the Netherlands. Of course, many are overtaking opportunity around that circuit. Another track that is hard on your tyres due to the long corners and how many there are in quick succession. So drivers need to look out for the tyre front. Battery as well is crucial. But overall, sticking within that DRS is the main part to everybody's Grand Prix, and it should be an exciting one with many a overtake into, especially down the back straight.
Yep, I think it's going to be, especially into the Mulsanne straight. No, that's Le Mans.
Le Mans.
Yeah, am I back? I keep getting confused about what straights are. I've got the right
I
country.
do the same thing. Don't worry.
Oh, that's good. I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one. But
Isn't it? Sorry, but isn't it the Mistral string?
yes. Oh my goodness. It is.
It's
Thank
so
you, Max.
similar.
It is. It's so similar. Different circuits, same country. But we'll be at Paul Ricard next week, same time at 8 p.m. UK time. We'll be on YouTube next week, whereas P2 will be on Twitch. Thank you to those of you that have watched us. If you're watching it live or post-event, we do appreciate your company. A big shout out to our sponsors. We got Next Level Racing, Assetech Sim Sports. I do not have the graphic for that, unfortunately. I do not know why. Also, massive shout out to Pure Sim Gear, our partners Vespertine and ERT, as well as SimGrid. We could have done it without you. And also thank you to my co-com Max again for your company once more. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for having me here, Jess.
And we will see you same time next week, 8 o'clock, for some more racing in the P1 tier. Could we see a 4th different winner from 5 races? Well, you have to tune in next week. Until then, take care, stay safe, and good night.